friend who could, oh, there's a recording. Okay, cool. So basically I went to Boston for a summer internship that my friend was actually kindly being able to put together for me. I connected with my friend who actually worked with JP Morgan at the time. So I was luckily going through a couple of interviews, was able to get into their internship program as of the time. So it was an off-cycle internship and basically it could only be obtained through like networking. So I really felt lucky to have got that. So used my OPT for that. Basically ended up in Boston until January the 2014. So around half a year when I got the offer from Deloitte Advisory at the time in Philadelphia. So I think Deloitte Advisory actually go to Lehigh with like a specific school recruitment program. And that program is really great. Basically, every year they will interview probably up to 10 people from our program. And typically there's like one person that they would hire for a winter internship. And I was in for the 2014 winter internship and was able to get a return offer and went to the New York office for my full-time program in Deloitte. So that's how I get started back in 2014. And time flies, and Deloitte learned a lot of stuff and also met a lot of people during the way, and was able to get some information and experience in the exposure in the valuation background. So after that, around 2018, I was able to get into Houlihan Lokey. So that's the very short version of the long story, Professor Zara.
So what do you do now?
My current position is I'd rather refer to it as a private equity services / advisory role. When I joined 4 years ago, and that was pre-COVID time, which is a completely different scope than what we have right now, is basically we do transaction related advisory work for a lot of the companies, like due diligence, evaluation during transactions, putting together DCF and market approach models and stuff like that. And post the transaction, we would actually help with the company's financial reporting pieces and some of the other requests like oil impairment from a valuation perspective. But then right now the practice, or what the initiative that I'm in, is really to service the private equity clients because they have been growing so rapidly. There's so much dry powder to deploy during the COVID time, with the macroeconomic policy being able to really enable that during the COVID period. So during the past 2 years have been really shifting our focus onto how we can actually help with private equity clients in their, first of all, the acquisition of their portcos, and then the management throughout their investment horizon over the 3 to 5 years of their holding period until they actually reach their exit scenario. For example, if it's a sale, M&A scenario, or if it's an IPO situation when the market is good. So it's really like a full spectrum, one-stop shop. I hate to use the word, but that's what we essentially do for private equity.
Yeah, so that's what Houlihan Lokey does basically. It's
exactly.
Okay. Any questions for Angela?
I know it's a lot of info dump, so, and no question is a stupid question, so feel free to ask.
Correct.
Hi, Angela. Hi, this is Siran. Yeah, sorry for the background noise because I think the management is fixing something. I have a quick question about the kind of the department or the function within HL, because I know they have those CVA group, which I believe it's corporate valuation group, whereas there's other, I guess, the transaction advisory group. Like, do they cooperate like together on a deal, or which part of those two functions are you more focused on?
That's a great question, by the way. And I believe you're referring to the CBAS and the FBA, and the task group, TAS, the CBAS and the TAS groups. So basically how Houlihan works from a 10,000 feet perspective is, it's actually 3 different entities. It's the restructuring piece. There's the corporate finance piece, which is the typical M&A, investment banking piece, and there's the transaction advisory, or what we call financial valuation and advisory, FVA practice. So I am currently under the FVA practice, and there's a lot of different other divisions related to that. So the task group that you're referring to, the transaction advisory services group, is mainly doing the financial due diligence of a certain transaction. Is typically pre-deal, and they go to the client, meet the client. There's a lot of financial information that they'll come through, but mostly based on historical information, and that's a report that they'll provide, a quality of earnings report that they provide on the financial due diligence process. And then the CBAS group, which I'm currently in, is called Corporate Valuation Advisory Services. So this is the group where we initially did valuation for transaction or for other corporate planning purposes, but right now we're shifting to that private equity services focus right now. So the teams actually interact with each other very often, even within FBA or between FBA and investment banking and restructuring. We basically go out to client as the overall one HL. And this is like the marketing strategy. And there's also this additional group in HL, and also in a lot of the other investment banks, is that there's a sponsor coverage group. And basically what they do essentially is they just go out to drinks and golfing with like private equity investors and hedge fund managers, and basically, get the business for the overall HL. And whatever that service they need is, for example, if it's a transaction advisory related service, they'll source it to us. But if it's really, some exit plans, M&A exit potential transactions that they need a brokerage for, then it's the corporate finance business. So to answer your question, yes, everyone is in a one HL, and each of the team actually has to collaborate to actually upsell a lot of the clients that we have.
I see. Is there much mobility within different groups at HL, or you're basically doing, or they expect you to stay in one function for a certain number of years?
It really depends on the situation. And I have to say that the personal networking piece is also, and the skill set and background really plays a lot into this process, because, for example, restructuring, their models are different, their skill set are different. What they talk about a lot of times, as you can see, a lot of the restructuring advisory, I would say leaderships, they actually come from a general counsel or like a legal background, just because that they have to go through like the chapters when they actually advise the clients. So it's really about like different backgrounds. So for example, if we are doing a lot of, the advisory work at the beginning of the career, and you want to move into more of a restructuring role, then that will probably play into that. And there's a lot of additional learning. I'm not saying it's impossible, but from a probability standpoint, it's probably lower. But then with the personal endeavor into, looking into some of the chapters, like chapter 7, chapter 11 regulations, you can probably just catch up with some of the others on those skill sets. And it's also about like internal networking and being able to connect and, speak their language.
Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Nothing new there. Yeah, you just have to, network even when you have the job. You have to network within the organization.
Yeah, it's also internal and external. it's also talking to a lot of the clients. And with this type of advisory, typically we face the client, and that's typically their management level. It could be like head of finance or CFOs, like you're emailing or calling every day. They could be calling you at like a Saturday afternoon. So it's really a lot about managing those and being able to, improvise at the situation.
Hi, Angela. This is Wenxi from, I'm a first year MFE student. And I have a question for the interview. I want to know that what things are considered important when we're doing an interview, and how do we prepare for an interview? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. And may I ask what type of industry you're interviewing with, and I can probably give more of a specific answer on that.
So this company is most doing mortgage, like hollow mortgage, and they are also doing like some strategy, but like everything connected to mortgage, they are doing it.
Gotcha. So financial services industry. So my advice when going to an interview first is, if there's an HR contact that you have, either it's a headhunter or if it's an internal HR that the company has, try to grill them for as much information as you can obtain. First, that's my first step, like trying to understand, what the personality of the other end, the person that you were going to speak with. Try to understand the role, the background that they're looking forward to, and also the firm itself. So just so you're fully prepared and know what you're getting yourself into. And going into the interview, I would make sure that if the HR mentions any of the technical aspect, I'll make sure myself that at least I understand what the company is doing, and if there's any potential technical questions come up, I will be able to cover it. Like, for example, sometimes if I were to interview some of the candidates, not from Lehigh, but from some of the other schools, they'll come into the interview without being able to explain to me what the TCF is. And that's definitely a red flag. And, once you're able to like explain some of the basics on the technicals, I think there's like a threshold there. Like whatever above there is a plus, but then once you hit the threshold, it's really about the fit of that specific person. So a lot of times we see that, the candidates is like 80% as good, then we're like, okay, great. This is a great personality. We can definitely work with him. This person has a great attitude. He's willing to learn. So we're going to hire him and train that additional 20% out of him. So that's what we typically look forward in an interview from an interviewer's perspective. So hopefully that helps you with some of that.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Any other question for Angela? Angela, well, thank you very much. Hold on. Go ahead. Hear you.
Okay, hi Angela, this is Chu. Yeah, and I have a quick question about the valuation. Yeah, if we want to apply for the job of valuation, what requirements we need to have?
I'm sorry, what is the requirement of the
valuation? Yeah, just a position of valuation.
I see. Typically, I would say that if a company is willing to has a good training program in the first place, they would be more willing to actually directly hire from campus. If that's the case, then most probably they're looking for some very basic information or project or school event or internship that you've done that shows that you can use Excel well. That's the very basics. And then on top of that, if there's additional knowledge that shows that you have exposure to, either the corporate valuation, either it's a DCF type of model, or if it's like analyzing whether a company is for example, agri research, like looking at its traded price and what's the intrinsic value of the company, type of research, then that would be really helpful. But then when it really comes to like a second layer, like for example, Houlihan Lokey typically hires experienced hires. So then that will be the next level, like they would look forward to specific background and experiences in the industry. So it's really like a step-by-step process. And then it's very difficult, I know, but then the very first step is like actually to break into the ones that have a solid training program that will take you from that 70% to 100% on the technical end.
Get it. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
Great.
Cool.
Unless there are any more questions, I wanted to thank Angela for her time.